of Tax Appeals, as I had mentioned, and today's proceedings are being live streamed, and we're also having a certified shorthand reporter transcribe what is said today. These will become part of the record for this appeal, and this transcript will also be posted on our website after the hearing. However, because these hearings are being conducted electronically as opposed to in person, I'd like to just offer a quickly a few reminders for the parties to help the process basically run as smooth as possible. So before you speak, I'd ask that you please state your name, and this is especially important because some of the participants today only have audio connection, they don't have a video connection. I'm also asking that you do not show any exhibits on your screen. These proceedings, again, are being live broadcast. So any information shown on the screen will be publicly available. For that reason, I also ask that you do not use the chat feature in Webex to communicate during this proceeding. One last reminder, please do mute your microphone if you're not speaking. That's just basically to avoid feedback and background noise during the proceedings. With that said, I believe we're ready to go on the record. I'll signal the shorthand reporter. Lynn, are you ready to go on the record? Great. Okay, let's go on the record. So we're opening the record in the appeal of Ruben Peraza and Josefina Peraza, doing business as Peraza Concrete Transport. This matter is being held before the Office of Tax Appeals. The OTA's case number is 1906-4890. Today's date is Tuesday, June 16th, 2020, and the time is approximately 1:00 p.m. This hearing was noticed for Cerritos, California, and is being conducted electronically. So today's hearing is being heard by a panel of 3 administrative law judges. My name is Andrew Kui, and I'll be the lead administrative law judge. Judge Daniel Cho and Judge Natasha Ralston are the other members of this panel. All 3 of us will meet and discuss this case after the hearing and produce a written decision as equal participants. Although the lead judge, as myself, will conduct the hearing, any of the judges on this panel may ask questions or otherwise participate to ensure basically that we have all the information needed to decide this appeal. Just for the record, I know we did a roll call, but for the record, I'd like the parties on the line to please state their names and who they represent, starting with the representatives for CDTFA. CDTFA, would you please identify yourselves for the written record?
Hi, this is Jason Parker with CDTFA. I think Mary Floor is muted.
Okay, thank you. And did we have a third representative for CDTFA?
This is Kevin Smith from CDTFA.
Okay, thank you. And for the taxpayer, would the 2 individuals on the line please identify yourselves for the record?
Yes, my name is Ruben.
And Josefina Peraza.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And just as one preliminary matter, we did have a scheduling conflict. The notice of panel that went out, it indicated that Judge Joshua Aldridge was going to be hearing this panel today. However, there was a conflict, so Judge Natasha Ralston is going to be substituting in place of Judge Aldridge. Does either party have any objections or conflicts or concerns with the substitution? I'll start with CDTFA.
This is Mary Floor Jimenez. We have no objection.
Okay, and for the taxpayer, Mr. Peraza, do you have any objection or concerns with the substitution?
No, this is Ruben Peraza. I have no.
Okay, great, thank you. Again, for the people that aren't speaking, just a friendly reminder, please mute your mics just to prevent the background noises. With that said, I'll go on to the witnesses. From my understanding, CDTFA has no witnesses. Is that correct for CDTFA?
This is Mary Floor Jimenez. That is correct. We have no witnesses.
Okay, thank you. And for the taxpayer, Mr. Ruben and Josefina Peraza, I understand that the 2 witnesses are basically the husband and wife partnership. The husband and wife, you and Ms. Peraza, are the 2 witnesses. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great. And does CDTFA have any objection to the two witnesses?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. We have no objection to the two witnesses.
Great, thank you. And to go over the exhibits, we previously discussed that CDTFA had exhibits A through G. And those were described in our minutes and orders that I sent out and discussed during the pre-hearing conference. Does CDTFA have any new exhibits to add at this point?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. There's no additional exhibits.
Okay, thank you. And for the taxpayer, we discussed at the pre-hearing conference that there would be a deadline of 15 days before the hearing to submit any exhibits if you wanted to. There was no requirement to submit new exhibits. So currently I have no exhibits for the taxpayers. Is that still correct, or are there exhibits that you would like to submit?
No, you're correct.
Okay, great, thank you. So, and Mr. Peraza, did you have any objection to any of the exhibits that were offered by CDTFA, the A through G?
We have a witness statement.
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe your line cut out. If you would like to please repeat that, Mr. Peraza.
This is Josefina Peraza. We don't have any additional, only have in our 15 minutes.
Okay, so I was just asking if you had a concern or objection. For example, that documents submitted by CDTFA might be subject to attorney-client privilege, or they're not relevant, or if you are okay with admitting CDTFA's exhibits into the record.
We have no objection.
Okay, great, thank you. So basically, I'll just go over how this hearing is going to proceed. As we discussed at the pre-hearing conference, Mr. and Mrs. Peraza will have 15 minutes for their presentation. At that point, CDTFA will then have 15 minutes for their presentation. OTA may ask questions of the parties. If a witness testifies for the opposing party, CDTFA may also ask questions of that witness. That would be Mr. and Ms. Peraza. And at that point, we're ready to conclude. Each party will have 5 minutes to make any final statements before we conclude the hearing. Are there any questions about how the hearing will proceed before we start, or any final questions for me before we start?
No.
No question.
Okay, and for CDTFA, did you have any questions before we start?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. No questions.
Okay, great. So the issues in this appeal, there's 2 issues. The first is whether an adjustment is warranted to the tax liability as determined by CDTFA. And the second issue is whether appellant established a basis for interest relief. Those are the 2 issues that we were discussing. In addition, I had placed the parties. I noticed that OTA might ask some additional questions of the parties. And with that said, we'll turn over to the taxpayer. Before I turn it over, I'd ask the taxpayer to swear to Mr. Peraza. Ms. Peraza, do you mind raising your hand? I just would like to administer an oath before I allow you to testify.
Our right hand.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth today?
I will, sir.
I do.
Okay, thank you. With that said, I'll turn it over to you, the taxpayer, to make your opening presentation and testimony. You have 15 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Ruben. I am the owner of Transport. We've been doing business since 2005. In 08, we hit a recession, and we're out of work for a while. But that's when we were audited, and all this time that we were working, we always used to load from the plant and deliver as we would pay the taxes at the plant and deliver the load. So we would get paid by the load. We never knew about the taxes. Maybe we didn't do it wrong, but we were never explained how to put the taxes in, double dipping the taxes. We didn't put it on our invoice. But our invoice that were made had tax on there. We didn't know better than to do that. In 2008 when we hit the recession, we had to get rid of a couple of trucks, and we were out of work for about a good year. My wife was ill. She had a thyroid dysfunction, and her thyroids were removed. She's still living on 22 pills a day to stay alive. In 2008, was it when 2015, when we had the audit from Mr. Record, he couldn't figure out how we were doing our bills. There was no way he could figure out how we were paying the taxes and needed a reseller's permit.
Yeah.
How we needed a reseller's permit, we didn't know. So he advised us to go and get a reseller's permit.
He actually made us.
He actually made us do that. So when he audited us and he came back and told us how much we owed, we didn't even think we made that much.
Let me
go ahead.
Let
My
me
wife.
take over a little bit. When Mr. Records did the audit in 2015, he couldn't figure out why we needed a reseller's permit, and we were just doing naively charging from $250 to $300 per load, not knowing that everybody was doing this in our field the same way, and we didn't know that was the correct way of doing it. So when we explained Mr. Records, the auditor, he couldn't figure it out again. So he basically scheduled a meeting at the Office of Board of Equalization in Riverside, where Mr. Potter and there's another panel there where they couldn't even figure it out, so they kept postponing and trying to figure it out, even till today. Well, we got the reseller's permit, but then we stopped business because we didn't have enough trucks. We didn't have any work. We went rental, helping out other people because we needed to fix our situation with the Board of Equalization. After that, I went for a major surgery. I am completely disabled. Actually, that is one of my biggest concerns because I'm disabled. I just need to take all these pills to survive. But at this point, we don't even know how we are supposed to be doing business. We just do it the way the Board of Equalization wants us to do business.
Yes. Well, in 2012, we got hit by the ARB with the exhaust. We had to put exhaust on our trucks, and it's a $10,000 exhaust only for 1 year. We can't afford that. So right now, we're not even running. It's been really hitting us hard everywhere, and we're just, with the COVID-19 and this, it's, I'm 61 years old. There's nothing else I can do. I'm trying to survive here. I really ask you folks to please look at our case and look it over. And I mean, we're small potatoes, mom and pop business. We don't live like millionaires. We own 2005 cars. It's just that we did something wrong. I'm sure we did. We understand, but we weren't explained, not knowing, naively, exactly. We do our taxes every year. We never miss that, and it just, we ask you to please have some consideration for us. I know we did wrong. I'm sure we did, but it wasn't, man. And I mean, it's really hard right now, the way the situation is with the ARB. You have to have an exhaust to work in California. So it's all these things are happening. The COVID-19, and then my wife with the 22 pills a day. We have to pay for this stuff. It's not given to us. We don't have insurance. I mean, it's pretty hard for us right now. And we were explained, like I said, we never resold concrete. All we did was haul loads. That's what everybody does. Unfortunately, we were the ones, someone called in on us, I guess, or something, and we were the ones that were audited. We didn't mean to taking advantage of the system or the taxes. That's the last thing we wanted to do. We've had little incidents that we have paid off, with other agencies. But other than that, we're just trying to stay alive and trying to work and just continue. And
also, I would like to add that we are no criminals. We don't have a criminal record. We just want to do this the right way, and we just need to do it the right way from now on. It's like we need to survive, we need to eat, we need to pay our bills, and we just want the panel to reconsider our situation. Like I said, we want to do it the right way.
Yeah, so we are. I mean, it's been really hard, construction-wise.
We've been the hardest hit.
I have nothing else to say. Just please be consideration with us, and I know I'm sure we did something wrong, but it wasn't meant. I mean, we didn't take advantage of the system. We just tried to go with it, and we apologize for it, but just consideration would be really, really kind from you folks. That's all we ask.
We paid our taxes and everywhere, and every load that we took, we paid everything. So
I'm not saying that blank everything. I'm sure there's going to be something to pay, but just be considerate with us. That's all we ask.
Got no worth the money.
Yeah, and that's all we have to explain for you folks today.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. and Ms. Peraza. At this point, I'd like to ask CDTFA if they have any questions for the witnesses.
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. We have no questions for the witnesses.
Okay, thank you. Before I turn it over to the tax appeals panel for questions, I'm going to allow CDTFA to do their opening presentation. I will have some questions for the parties, and I'm sure the panel probably will too. But before we get to that, I'd just like the CDTFA to do their opening presentation. So I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Jimenez.
Okay, this is Mary Flor Jimenez. The department discovered that the appellants were operating without a seller's permit. So they were contacted and a seller's permit was issued around August 13, 2015. That permit was backdated to a start date of October 1st, 2008. When the department examined the appellant's records for the period of October 1st, 2008 through September 30th, 2015, the department discovered that the appellants were retailers of concrete. They sold to customers and contractors for use in improvements to real property. The appellants delivered the concrete in their own cement trucks, but did not install it to real property. Instead, the concrete was pumped out and placed in the final location by the customer or their contractor. Appellants' records were limited and incomplete, which included some sales invoices and reconstructed sales journals for 6 months. The department reviewed the sales invoices and found that the appellants separately itemized the markup sales price for the concrete and the delivery charges by their own facilities. There was no title transfer information included on those invoices. Sales tax reimbursement was charged on some of the invoices. And also, there was no documentation presented to support the exempt status of any of the sales. California imposes sales tax on the retail sales in the state of tangible personal property measured by the retailer's gross receipts, unless the sale is specifically exempt or excluded from taxation by statute. That's Revenue Taxation Code, Section 6051. All of a retailer's gross receipt are presumed subject to tax unless the retailer can prove otherwise. That's Revenue Taxation Code 1691. According to Regulation 1628, Section B2, with respect to transportation charges for delivery via facilities of the retailer, gross receipts do not include separately stated charges for delivery from the retailer's place of business or other point from which shipment is made directly to the purchaser, provided the transportation occurs after the sale of the property is made to the purchaser. When delivery of the property is by facilities of the retailer. Title passes and the sale occurs when the property is delivered to the purchaser at the destination unless there is an explicit written agreement executed prior to the delivery that title is to pass at some other time. That's Regulation 1628, Section B3D. Therefore, as a retailer of concrete products, the appellants owe sales tax on the entire sale price of the concrete, including the amounts charged for delivery in their own cement trucks. A credit for any tax paid on the purchases of the concrete will be allowable in the same period as the product is resold. As I mentioned earlier, the appellant's books and records were incomplete. Therefore, the department used an indirect audit approach to compute the audited taxable measure. First, the department surveyed the appellant's 3 known vendors to obtain the total purchases. Of the 3 vendors surveyed, only 1 vendor, Alpha Materials, provided total purchases for the period of January 1st, 2010 to June 30th, 2015. The second vendor, Associated Ready Mix, was not able to provide an exact amount since the appellant was on the cash on delivery only. The other vendor, Robertson, did not respond. To compute the audited total purchases, the department requested from appellant purchases and sales invoices from random months for each year. Based on the sales and purchase invoices provided for January and February 2015, the department concluded that purchases from Associated Ready Mix and Robertson's were approximately 25% of purchases from Alpha Materials. That will be on your Exhibit C, page 54. The department did note that the purchase amounts included sales tax reimbursement. The purchase information was used to compute the audited average quarterly purchases for years 2010 through 2015. That will be on your Exhibit C, page 46 to 47. Now, for the period of fourth quarter 2008 and year 2009, the audited purchases were computed using the average of total purchases from January 2010 and February 2011 purchase invoices. That will be on your Exhibit C, page 49 to 50. Next, to compute the 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2015 audited markup of costs, the department compared appellant's purchase invoices and sales invoices for February 2011, May 2012, September 2013, and February 2015. That'll be on your Exhibit C, page 52 to 54. For the other remaining years, which are 2008, 2009, 2010, and 2014, the department estimated the markup of costs using the overall audited markup computed for the 4-year period, which was 68.75%. The department then applied the audited markup factor to the audited purchases to compute the audited taxable sales for the audit period. That will be on your Exhibit C, page 45. Since sales tax reimbursement was included with the appellant's purchases for vendor surveys, a tax paid allowance for all purchase amounts was provided. The net amount represents the unreported taxable profit for the audit period. That would be on your Exhibit C, page 45. The department reviewed the documentation provided by the appellants regarding bad debts on taxable sales. This included mechanic liens, customers' dishonor checks, and Rancho Pacific Telecommunications bankruptcy filing. Based on that information, the department recommends a bad debt allowance in the amount of approximately $44,000. That would be your Exhibit C, page 55 to 57. The understated taxable measure for the audit period is around $1,144,000. In support of that reasonableness of this amount, the department observes that appellant's bank deposit minus verified non-sale deposit and transfers for years 2012 through third quarter of 2015 amounts to approximately 1.3 million. That will be on your Exhibit C, page 63 to 66. The audited taxable findings for the same period are about $702,000, which is $336,000 less than the amount of bank deposits. This analysis shows that the audited taxable measure recommended by the department is more than reasonable. Now, as far as the request for relief of interest, the department notes that the appellants did not provide any information or documentation to support unreasonable error or delay by the department. Despite this fact, the department performed an independent review of the timeline with the processing of this case. There's no unreasonable errors or delays noted during either the audit or the appeals process. However, there is an unexplained delay of 11 months noted during the settlement process, including a 10-month delay to provide the appellant with the department's initial offer, and then an additional 1-month delay to remove the case from settlement. Therefore, the department recommends relief of interest for the periods of June 3rd, 2016 through April 13, 2017. And then January 30th, 2018 through February 28, 2018. In addition, the department noted that some of the invoices' selling prices included separately stated charges for sales tax. However, the majority does not. The selling price and costs are tax included when computing the markup of cost. Since the majority of the sales invoices does not have sales tax separately stated, it would be more precise if the markup ratio is computed using the ex-tax selling price. Therefore, for the sales invoices that included the separately stated sales tax, the department recommends adjusting the selling price to an ex-tax basis when calculating the markup. At this time, the appellants have not provided any documentation or essential information to support any additional adjustments to the audit findings. The department's audit findings are reasonable and fair. Therefore, the department's request that the appellant's appeal be denied. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, so Rancho Pacific, this is Ruben Peraza, the taxpayer. Rancho Pacific was $85,000. And what else we didn't receive anything from?
We didn't get paid.
Yeah, we never gotten paid from any of that. So it's not $44,000, it's $85,000 on the bankrupt for Rancho Pacific Communications. And I also did not receive a settlement agreement. Also, yeah, we didn't receive any settlement agreement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peraza. This is Judge Kui. I will get to your concerns in 1 minute, but before that, before I turn it over to you, I'd like to ask a couple of questions of CDTFA. So if you could just hold for 1 minute. And for CDTFA, this is Judge Kui, and I just wanted to get a couple clarifications on the department's recommendations.
Sure.
First, on the $44,000 bad debts, was that what was already included in the audit, or is that a new adjustment that CDTFA is recommending?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. Judge Kui, the $44,000 was already incorporated in the audit.
Okay, and the next one on the interest, is that a new adjustment that is being recommended by CDTFA?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. Judge Kui, yes, for that interest relief, it is new.
Okay, and on the third adjustment for reducing the markup to exclude the separately stated charges for sales tax, that's also a new adjustment CDTFA is recommending, is that correct?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. Judge Kui, that is correct, that is new.
Okay, thank you. And again, this is Judge Kui. Just so we get everyone on the same page, does CDTFA have a dollar amount of the interest adjustment and a dollar amount of the sales tax included adjustment that is being made, or is that something that isn't going to need to be calculated after the hearing?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. Judge Kui, those calculation needs to be calculated after the hearing.
Okay, may I ask how much time CDTFA needs to make those calculations?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. We would need at least 30 days.
30 days. And okay, now I'm going to turn over to the taxpayer. As you probably heard, the CDTFA is recommending two new adjustments, one to interest and two to the tax liability. Since this is new, I would like to give the taxpayer an opportunity to respond to the adjustments before we close the record. I assume 30 days would be good, and I understand the taxpayer is saying that it should have been 84, not 44. So I understand that he does have some comments to make. Mr. Peraza, would it be okay if we could hold the record open for 30 days for CDTFA to make the adjustments, and then another 30 days for you to respond with any additional clarifications that you have on the adjustments made by CDTFA? Does that sound okay to the taxpayer, Mr. Peraza?
This is Ruben Peraza. Yes, Your Honor, that will be fine with us. Anything that will work for you folks, it's fine with us.
Okay, thank you. And for CDTFA, I'm going to just clarify, do you have any objections to what I just proposed, the 30 days for CDTFA, 30 days for the taxpayer?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. Judge Kui, no objection to those.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, I did have a couple questions that I would like to ask, and I'm going to start with the taxpayer. Mr. Peraza, I just wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page. From my understanding, CDTFA's position is that you sold ready mix concrete, and you delivered it in your trucks to your customers, but you did not install the concrete yourself. Other people installed it. Is there any dispute about basically about that, or do you agree that's how your business operated?
That's exactly how our business operated. We load it up at the plant. The plant gives us an invoice, and we go to wherever the delivery is. We get there, we unload, and we leave. We have nothing to do with the concrete once it hits the ground.
Okay, and as far as I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay, and this is
Go ahead, sir. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. This is Judge Kui again, and I just had a couple of questions about the documents titled Work Order Peraza Concrete Transport that were in CDTFA's exhibit list. Basically, it looks like a sales invoice, or that's what CDTFA has referred to it in their decision. It includes the customer name, address, separately stated charges for the materials, for the delivery, and for the sales tax. Are these documents that you provided to the customer? Do you have any background information on what these work orders are?
Yeah, those are work orders, sir.
Okay, is this, did you provide any additional receipts to the customer, or is this the only documentation that you had for the sales?
That's the only documentation that we had.
Okay, and as far as the numbers that were listed on these work orders, are these accurate reflections of how much you charged the customer for their concrete?
We gave them the loading ticket and the work orders.
Okay. I don't believe the loading tickets are in the record. Is that, I'll quickly ask CDTFA. CDTFA, are the loading tickets in your exhibits?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. Judge Cree, if they're referring to the freight, it's attached to the sales invoices.
Right?
You would see some shipping documents with it. If you tell me what page you're looking at, then I'll be able to refer you to what they call a weight master certificate.
Okay, so how about we start on page 119 of CDTFA's exhibit? That's invoice number 3319, Peraza Concrete Transport.
Judge Cree, this is Mary Flor. That is the what they call the shipping document. That's not their invoice. Their sales invoice will be the page. I apologize. I'm looking at the wrong item here. So 119. All right. So 119 is invoice number 3319. So the shipping document they have is 120, page 120.
Mr. Peraza, is that your understanding? So this, you know, the work order and then a shipping invoice for every transaction? And I guess the shipping invoice is what you're referring to as a loading document?
We have the loading ticket is that's the weight master thing. That's the weight.
The weight master, yes, weight master certificate, and then we have an invoice, which is a work order with a number 6315. Let's say it has a 4-digit number.
Okay.
But we do have.
Okay, great. And so, again, this is Judge Quee. My question about that was just the amounts, the sales total listed on the work orders. Do you agree those are the total amounts that you sold the property to the customer for, or is there any dispute about the accuracy of the totals listed on the work orders?
I kind of dispute the accuracy because we did pay the plant taxes on every load that we loaded until we were audited, because then that's when we got the reseller permit.
Okay, so I understand that the taxpayer's contention that sales tax was paid at the time of purchase. I'm looking at the work order, which is the document from Peraza Concrete Transport to its customer, and that listed a total amount charged. And I was wondering, is the total amount that is listed as being charged to the customer, is that accurate? The amount listed on the work order, is that what Peraza Concrete Transport actually charged to the customer, or is there a dispute that the customer paid more or less than what was listed in the work order?
They paid a little different because it was a different amount, so it was what was in the work order.
Okay, so I guess I'll look at, for example, I'm not sure if you have do you have CDTFA's exhibits in front of you?
No, we don't.
No.
Okay,
No, we don't.
Okay, so I'll read, for example, what I'm looking at to make sure I understand and you understand correctly. So, for example, I'm looking at a work order on page 121 of CDTFA's exhibit list. And that one's, it's called work order number 3322. And that, it lists a total amount of $411 charged to the customer. And there's this, under special instructions, there's a stamp that says paid. And it also says paid late today, is handwritten in. And so, Mr. Peraza, are you saying that the $411 total listed on the work order is not what the customer paid to your company?
That was what was paid to us.
Okay.
That's what was paid to us, Judge Quee.
Okay. So as far as the issue with the tax being paid on the purchase, that's what you paid to your own supplier, and that's what you're saying That's your contention that you paid the taxes, the amount that you paid to your supplier, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. My question about that is there are separate items for sales tax. I'm just wondering then if you didn't have a permit, what happened with the amount that you charged for the sales tax? Is that something that was paid to anyone, or what happened with the sales tax that was collected from the customer?
What we paid, what we got paid, we basically paid the material.
Okay.
Like I said, we didn't know how we were supposed to do business, and we did pay taxes to the plant every load that we loaded.
Yes, we did pay. We had taxes paid every time we loaded. We paid taxes. So when we delivered it, we would just charge for the concrete, and that was it. We wouldn't charge taxes again because we already had paid. But we didn't know that we were supposed to have a reseller's permit, and the plants never told us this. So that's why we were paying the plants the tax.
Okay.
We don't have an account. We don't have an account with plants.
Okay. I understand. And just so I understand the concerns that you raised, I was wondering, as far as the audit methodology applied by CDTFA, are there any specific concerns that you would like the panel to look into that might not have been done correctly, or that you feel might not have been done correctly when CDTFA calculated the liability? I know you mentioned the 44,000 bad debt deduction should be a higher amount, and you'll have the opportunity to address that in briefing after the hearing today. But I was wondering, other than that, are there any specific concerns that you would like to address the panel, or have the panel look at and examine when we look at this appeal?
Yes, this is Josefina Peraza. What I'm trying to, we were at the beginning trying to do business like everybody else out there. We didn't know, and like I said, everybody at the Board of Equalization had a struggle figuring out how we were supposed to be doing business. Now, the dollar amount that Rancho Pacific owed to us was not 40-something thousand. It was more, way more. And even one of the, after filing for bankruptcy, they kept loading. We kept giving them material, which they still owed us another $10,000. Where the attorney, I don't know what happened to the attorney, but they just never returned our phone calls, and we never got paid. And that one wasn't sent to you guys. I mean, it's since 2009. I don't have any record of it. But like I said, we did try to do business like we were supposed to. We thought we were doing business. It was naively, and just like I said, we paid. If we do owe, I mean, we're not trying to get out of this situation by zeroing it or anything, but we did pay every load that we did pay taxes to the plant. And we only load basically at Alpha, other than other companies. They don't sell FOB to any of us.
Okay, thank you. I just have one, I just pause for one moment. I noticed that we did receive a new participant in this hearing, who was identified as call-in user 3. I'd just like to verify if we got a new participant or someone dropped on and called back in. Do we have is there anyone who did not identify themselves previously during roll call who's now participating in this hearing? Okay, I apologize. I thought that there was a new person that just joined the hearing. I'll continue. And before I turn it over to the panel to see if they have any additional questions, since you mentioned the bad debt deduction, Ms. Peraza, I would like to just raise one quick question about that. In looking at the CDTFA's audit working papers, I do see that there were 2 income tax returns on file, and and neither one of those claimed any bad debt deductions or wrote off any bad debts for income tax purposes. I'm wondering if, do you know if your business ever charged off any bad debts such as the ones that you were mentioning for income tax purposes?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'd like to find out if either of my panel members have any questions. I guess I'll start with Judge Cho. Judge Cho, do you have any questions for either of the parties?
This is Judge Cho. I just wanted to ask the appellants, you did mention the bad debt deduction from Rancho Pacific. Do you have any further documentation for that showing the higher bad debt amount?
I should be able to, if I can look up the records, like I said, I could look it up and see if I can locate it within that 30 days. They took copies of everything, even though they should have that with them.
Yes, Mr. Records did take copies of all the bankrupt papers and the $10,000 on concrete that they loaded after bankrupt was filed.
This is Judge Cho. Thank you. So if you don't mind, would you mind just submitting those documentation to the Office of Tax Appeals with your final submission during that 30-day period, according to Judge Kui's, I guess, post-conference memorandum that he'll send out?
Yes, sir. We will do that for you.
I will try to find it.
Okay, thank you. This is Judge Cho. And just a quick question for CDTFA. You mentioned that you're going to be doing some calculations regarding the inclusion of sales tax and the adjustment of the markup. I just wanted to confirm, but you're only going to be adjusting those calculations, correct? You won't be adding any new audit items, for example, like excess sales tax reimbursement collected that was failed to be remitted. Is that correct?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. Judge Cho, that is correct. We're just going to be adjusting the selling price because we included the tax on those. So we're just going to remove the tax when computing the markup of the cost.
This is Judge Cho. Thank you very much. Those are all the questions that I had.
Thank you, Judge Cho. This is Andrew Kui. I'd like to turn it over to Judge Ralston to see if she has any questions of either party at this point.
This is Judge Ralston. I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Judge Ralston. So with that said, I'll just briefly go over the post-hearing briefings. First, it's going to be 30 days for CDTFA to make the interest and the tax adjustments at that point. And I'd ask CDTFA to clarify in its submission both the amount of the adjustments and the specific items for which the adjustment is being made. I understand, for example, for interest, you mentioned several periods. If you could please indicate what those specific periods are when you make the adjustments. And then after CDTFA provides additional briefing on the amount and nature of the adjustments, then the taxpayer will have 30 days to respond and provide additional documents, which may include documentation on bad debts. Now, since the bad debts wasn't an item that CDTFA was making an adjustment on, I think it might be prudent, or depending on what the taxpayer submits, I might at that point turn it back to CDTFA if there's new documentation, for example, for CDTFA to determine if any additional adjustments are warranted. So that might extend the additional prepaying period for an additional 30 days. I'll ask CDTFA, do you have any concerns with reviewing new documentation submitted, which would extend the holding the amount of time the record is held open for an additional, for example, 30 days, possibly? CDTFA, do you have any objections about that?
This is Mary Flor Jimenez. Judge Kui, we have no concerns.
Okay, thank you. And for the taxpayer, just to clarify, you are also okay if the amount of time the hearing is held open is extended for an additional period for CDTFA to review any documentation that you submit. Is that correct?
Yes, I just have a question. All the taxes that that we paid on the loading, when we loaded, it's going to be credited, you said?
Ms. Peraza, so my understanding, the adjustments that the adjustments that CDTFA is currently proposing to make are, one, to grant interest relief for certain periods, which will be clarified in their post-hearing submission, and two, they will be deleting separately stated charges for sales tax that were made in the work orders that were provided to the customers. Those are the two adjustments that CDTFA has recommended making.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Certainly. Are there any other questions from the panel members before we turn it over to the parties for a 5-minute rebuttal, 5-minute closing remarks? Okay. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to appellants, Mr. and Ms. Peraza. You have 5 minutes to provide any closing arguments or remarks that you would like to make before we conclude this hearing.
Yes, this has been going on for a while. This has been on the back of my mind. I'd really like to get it over with. Please have a kind heart for us. And God bless you on this decision. I mean, for us, it's very important. We're doing really miserable right now, and it would really help us if you have a kind heart on that amount. Thank you very much for your day for today, and thank you very much to the panel, Ms. Jimenez, Parker, Mr. Smith, and you, Judge Choi, Kui. Thank you very much for the day and for listening to us.
And I hope you have a kind heart and give us an opportunity. Like I said, we're not trying to get out of the situation, but we want to just get it fixed and done and over with.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is Judge Kui. At this point, I'll turn it over to CDTFA. You again have 5 minutes for any closing remarks that you would like to make before we conclude this hearing.
Judge Kui, we have no closing remark. We're completed. Thank you.
Okay, this is Judge Kui. Thank you everyone for coming in today. I believe we're ready to conclude this hearing. So with that said, the case is going to be held open, or the record is going to be held open for an additional at least 60 days, possibly 90 days. I will send out an orders document summarizing the additional briefing that's required. And it's going to be what we basically discussed during this hearing today. With that said, thank you everyone for calling in, and we will issue a written decision within 100 days after the record is closed, after the briefing period is closed. Today's hearing in the appeal of Ruben and Josefina Peraza is now adjourned. This also concludes all the hearing matters that were scheduled before OTA for this day. Thank you everyone. Take care.
Thank you. And God bless all.